Hey, ¿qué pasa, Calexico? Welcome to episode 5. We just had a little mishap. I forgot to press record on the audio, and Maritza was doing an awesome job. But yeah, we're here with our mayor, Maritza Hurtado,
Hello.
once again. But yeah, oh man, you had so much good info that you're talking about, and I feel so
No
bad.
problem. The good thing is that I really know my info, so we can
Yeah,
say it
yeah,
one more
yeah.
time. You tell me where you want to start.
So yeah, go ahead. We're I guess now where you picked up because you had so much good info from the beginning.
I was talking more about you
Mm-hmm.
when how you contacted me.
Yeah, in the beginning.
Yeah,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and then I was telling you that because you said that I really don't do too many interviews.
Mm-hmm.
I do a lot of interviews,
Mm-hmm.
but what it was is I was kind of watching you to make sure that if we come here to Que Pasa Calexico, and I listened to when you spoke the couple of times that you've done your interviews, actually 4 because I'm the 5th,
Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
That you actually are looking for information and be educated, and I think that that's more valuable than to go to a show where it's just rhetoric or making jokes. I can do that too, but I think we'll kind of do a little mixture today if you like, because I can't stop being a little traviesa myself
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, I
Sometimes.
mean, I'm like that too. I mean,
I think that you have to have a little bit of a good sense of humor to be able to survive this kind of politics,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So we'll say a couple of funny things like that too. But I was saying that nowadays there's a lot of lack of that kind of information, especially for something like what has happened in this kind of a city, that it's so complex and convoluted, complicated, twisted. I mean, there's just so much there that how do you get the real truth? And who do you believe, right? So, I could tell you I've been representing Calexico now for 7 years. Each term that you represent Calexico as a council member is a 4-year term. So I'm on my second one, 3 years into it. I have 1 more year to go. So I do have quite a bit of years of experience. Some years were better than others. But as far as what I hear out there, and there's a lot of comments and a lot of criticism. There's a lot of Facebook activism.
yeah.
I wish that Facebook activism would become real activism. And it doesn't. It's just, people blowing off steam. Fine. That's fine. Everybody needs to do that. But if you really care and you really want to get interested, I have had some people, younger people, contacting me very upset at certain things. And then when we start to talk about it, they end up wanting to be volunteers in stuff that we could do together in the city. For example, one young lady was really upset about our homeless situation. Calexico has a really difficult homeless situation. We have great groups out there that are extending the hand out to them and feeding them. We have excellent feeding programs. But what does that feeding program do lately? Now we're seeing that it's actually attracting the homelessness that exists in other cities, where the other cities are actually providing money to transport them to the city of Calexico.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
because when I remember, I used to help feed the homeless for a while, and it was a small group, like say, I don't know, like 30 people. Now it's like probably double that. And I mean, every time I see them feeding the group,
It's grown.
Yeah, it's getting bigger and bigger. So
there is actually an organization with the county that keeps track of them. And so we joined that group, and they meet every month, and they actually take the statistics. But the city of Calexico, the city of itself, the municipality of Calexico does not receive any funding right now for them, for the needs of the homeless. We also have I think that happens anywhere. You also have a certain section of your homeless population that don't want to be, they don't want help. They don't want to become not homeless. They just don't.
yeah,
They don't want to follow rules. They will usually have some type of issues, maybe health issues, mental issues, things like that. So you do have a certain sector of that part of our community that we just need to know how to deal with. There is a certain way that you should manage them, respect them too, of course. But throughout the years, we have noticed it has grown. So what does that do? That brings another level of problems to your community.
Yeah.
And so how do we take care of that if the community doesn't have those funds? So you basically balance your work in assisting your city and your community, but with those care providers as well. The people who are feeding those feeding programs, we work with them very closely to make sure they understand that and that their programs are actually attracting more participants, which is fine for them, but then it does become a problem for your community. So as far as the council being aware of those kinds of things, of course we are. But those kinds of issues are not night and day where you're going to take care of it tomorrow, because these are human lives and they have to live somewhere. I remember one time I heard a story where we had some housing, temporary housing that they set up for themselves out there in the boonies next to Vons or something, and that we basically got there and destroyed that. And that too is not cool. You actually need to know how to manage those kinds of things. You've heard stories like in San Diego where they've told some people, don't feed the homeless. And it's like, where's your heart?
Yeah.
Right? But then at the same time, you do need to balance that, because you don't want those issues either to overcome a peaceful community.
Yeah.
So there are issues that are really interesting, and I think that right now we have a very different council, that this council is actually able to have quite a bit of dialogue. Now we look at issues. In the past, we had no dialogue. It was a very sad situation that we did have. Many of the people that I know, we always have conversations about how bad it was, and that how difficult it was to actually tolerate all of that. And actually tried to solve some problems in between. And unfortunately, we all got under each other's skin quite a bit. And the voters decided that they had had enough with that. And so in the last election, they did vote out a couple of those members and replaced those members with some highly prepared individuals. I really do appreciate that. We have in our council 2 new members that are weren't with us for a while. Mr. Pacheco is a highly educated individual, and Mr. Escobar is also, he has an economics degree, and so he's college educated. And 2 very fine gentlemen. I know Mr. Escobar from business here in the Valley, in the Calexico, and he's always been into economic development. So we're talking about people who come with some big guns.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and it's weird that, anybody can basically get elected.
Sure.
And it's important that we elect people that, like you said, are knowledgeable and just, some kind of education.
Sure. I got criticized the other day. I'm not sure who that was, but they criticized me because I didn't speak Spanish correctly. I know I'm Mexican. And when I was young, I was not able to speak Spanish because I lived in another city where it was in San Jose, California, till I was about maybe 8 years old. So we came back to Calexico. But when I came back to Calexico, I didn't speak Spanish. And so how did I learn? I learned through just, because I took French in high school. So one thing, though, I know is that I probably do recognize that I don't speak Spanish sufficiently, where I know that it would not be appropriate for me to run for a city council or any political position or management or anything executive in Mexico, because I know my capability and I probably wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah.
However, you have the contrary here in Calexico, right? Where, we did have some individuals that it was a little hard. And so maybe that's where the criticism came from, because I don't speak enough Spanish. But I know I do. It's just I wasn't raised that way, so my Spanish is a little bit different, and I tell people soy pocha.
Yeah.
But what I've done for the last 30 years is for my immigrant community, so I figured that maybe the fact that I speak English so well and I have always mastered the legal field and how to help my clientele in getting trained in the legal field, it's because I speak perfect English.
Yeah. And
what I do with that is that then I take those abilities and I represent and I defend my immigrant community. And so I think that's okay. I'm okay with that if I don't speak Spanish, okay, and I mess up my words once in a while.
Yeah.
So maybe when I have maybe like a Mexican boyfriend and we talk to each other, maybe I'll learn more, but that hasn't happened yet. So, but for now, I'm okay. Yeah, I'm okay. I'm very proud of, like I said, what it was that I've done all my life. And I defend the defenseless. I assist the vulnerable. I've always done that. And so in my job here, for example, I don't dress fancy. I don't wear very fancy because that's just not me, first of all. I'm a pretty simple person. However, I guess in politics, I have another, I guess, other people envision me as something else, which I think that's how I wanted to do this, is to make sure that everybody knows that people like ourselves, we're very human. And the stories out there, they're all fake news. That we actually have personalities that you might want to get to know.
And yeah, that's the thing. Something that really that I always think about when they bring up people. Oh yeah, so and so that's in the council is taking money or whatever, or screwing the city. I'm like, so if somebody lives here, and has lived here most of their life, how could they do something like that and like still like live here and face the people that they're supposed to be screwing over? So like sometimes like to me it's like I can't believe they do it because I don't see them. It's such a small community that at the end you're gonna have to face these people. So I mean, unless you're like really like wholehearted or whatever, you don't care, like you're gonna like do it. But in reality, I don't think that we have the kind of people here that I mean,
well, it does happen. It does, right? I mean, you do have corruption. You do. There's no way to run operations and not know that someone's going to someday want to take some advantage. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast, right? But I think that there are stories that are just a little too unbelievable to believe, and whoever's saying that kind of stuff is like beyond childish.
Yeah.
And that's where I think what it is that it now starts to harm your community because you're seeing childish stuff going around and it's all for the public's viewing. And so we get called circuses and we get called all these things, right? However, the most important thing I think is a lot of that is from our past. We are actually living a very different thing right now.
Oh, yeah.
Very different.
Yeah.
So, I've read a couple of things in the past and I just wanted to tell those people writing that, my gosh, get out of 2015. We're in 2018 now. Yeah. If I can do it, I think everyone else needs to move on. Because living in the past will explain to us what occurred, maybe depending on your version, but it also allows us to learn not to make the same mistakes again. But what mistakes were made? That's actually probably the question as well. So and so was at fault, or so and so was at fault. Why don't you look at the actual facts of our situation and learn that first? And it's hilarious, actually, to a point of being hilarious. I'm the one that works there, but yet all those other individuals know what's going on.
Yeah.
And I think it's funny because they're just so off. And much of it is not personal opinion. Much of it facts. Okay, so if you say $6 million is missing, come on, somebody had to go to jail for that.
Yeah.
The word missing is very highly irresponsible from a representative. You need to have a manner in which to prove if something was missing so that you inform your public correctly. The word missing means somebody stole something.
Yeah.
And so that is where it frustrates me quite a bit, especially being a tax person for 30 years and to know that I'm on a council with people that just need a little help in knowing how to express those concerns or that information to a public that doesn't need to feel like there was inappropriate activity when there wasn't. I think what they need to understand is that you have a fractured system we were working with and a fractured system that was under repair during a really ugly time. And anyone who tells me that wasn't true, go ahead, tell me that wasn't true, but you don't work there.
Yeah.
I do. And so it's been a battle, but how do you combat the chisme?
Yeah.
Because I'm sorry, but that's actually probably the best word to use right now. Chisme.
Yeah. So coming into like government, like something that you had in mind that you wanted to do, have you been able to accomplish the things that you set yourself to?
No. We as a community, because I don't do this alone, and that's something that we were talking about, the term, remember? We were talking about that earlier. I had asked you a question if you knew about the term weak. The difference between a weak mayorship and the difference between that and the strong mayorship. And in Calexico, your mayor is a weak mayorship. We are not elected. We are only appointed, and we take turns. And the turns, how it's your turn is depending on where you ended up as far as how many votes you received, and your position in the campaign gives you first dibs. So I've been mayor twice, and so I did well in both my campaigns. However, as a mayor, we are only symbolic. We are not the prime decision makers of the city. Nope.
Yeah.
I still need to make sure I got four other gentlemen that have to agree with me, or I have to agree with them to be able to push any agenda items forward. So the mayor of Mexicali is very strong and powerful because he was elected, and so he is like a city manager in the city of Mexicali. However, in Calexico, we're just policymakers. Some of us have a lot more to say than others as policymakers, but it is just that, policymakers. We sit down with our manager and we go through strategies for solutions. He does a lot of the strategies for solutions alone with his staff, but he counsels with us to get our decisions and certain level of decisions. For example, if we have to go through some type of a lawsuit and there's going to be some type of a monetary award to whoever had damages, then we will consult with the city manager and make that decision if that's appropriate for the city to pay or not. So the strategies, the thought processes, they are a much more elevated situation now. I have a very, very strong council right now, and I'm very proud of that. The level of strategic thinking is very different. I think that's really important for everybody to know. I mean, it's just night and day. When I can tell you 3 years ago, it was not a strategic meeting as it is now. And so that's all I can really say about the past, is that the past was a struggle. It really was to get anything done. I don't want to criticize, but there was a lot of anger, a lot of bitterness that happened there.
There was a lot of fighting during this time.
Yeah, and a lot of people always ask me, well, what was the center point? Was it just the differences of personality? Well, yeah, that is one of them, right? Where I'm a female, they're a male. If you want to talk about the fact that it's because I was female, maybe. A lot of people would tell me that at the beginning. Maritza, you were like the second female mayor ever for the city of Calexico.
Oh, really? Who was the first?
The first was Dr. Cachagenis. She's still alive, but she's very elderly now. And she was the first.
Oh, wow.
She was Dr. Cachagenis, very, very strong woman, and didn't take anybody's crap. And that was my predecessor. So then we also had Carmen Durazo. She was a council member for the city, but she did not arrive to having the position as mayor. So when I arrived, I was the third woman as a councilwoman, but only the second woman as a mayor.
Oh, wow.
So this is my second opportunity, and it's not easy. Not easy being a female mayor in the city of Calexico. And however, I make it look easy. So I'm just kidding. So I do enjoy it though, because me ha costado. O sea, I've really had to hang on to a lot of my support when things were rough. Because sometimes I probably said I wanted to quit probably about 15 times.
Oh, really?
Yeah. This year, I think it's already been twice. But then, I talked to my really good friends, which of course I have to have a base. I have to have a base that brings me back down and says, slap me around a little bit.
Yeah.
And say, get with it. You're a tough cookie and you're going to be okay. And I think what it is that women need a place at the table. And that's probably where I come from a lot.
Yeah, I mean, in anything, I think that, being a female, you bring a different perspective to anything in life. Like if it's business, if it's government, if it's education, if it's we think differently. I mean,
Sure.
So I mean, it's important that we have, because we not only govern men, you govern
Sure.
women. So.
Sure, in all aspects of society, in the army, in government.
Yeah.
In schools, in business, sure. I mean, we're 50% of the population, right?
Yeah.
Women and men. And ever since I was a small kid, I was always very precocious, and I always had, always little Miss Bossy and stuff like that. And I was just like that, you know. I was born like that. And always in school, best student, teacher's pet, whatever.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that I was supposed to be different. I didn't know that, because here's this precocious kid. She's just looking for answers to her curiosity. And I didn't know I was going to come into a world when I was 21 years old, into a business world where this whole time, my almost 30 years here then, I've been dealing with men. Those are my clients, the agricultural field workers who are supporting their homes here and their families in this area. Those were my clients. when at the beginning when I would help them, I would bust them because we were doing amnesty applications back in the day, 1987 when we started, and I would be this this 21-year-old, at that time I was 20, on this big old bus because we would give them a ride down to El Centro because that's where they would apply. And we all got along great. I mean, I had great relationships with all of them, and I didn't know that I was supposed to be in a position when I came to this other job, which was, I consider my job a job.
Yeah.
I'm paid approximately $500 a month for me to be there, plus my insurance. So it's really not like 50,000. Okay, that's 500. So when I go to that job, I'm thinking, all right, for 30 years, I've dealt with men here all my life in agencies and federal agents, state agents, whatever, and what it is my job, with congressmen as well, because when you deal with immigration and citizenship issues, sometimes things go wrong and you have to deal with congressmen and their staff. And I always just thought everything was, hey, I'm a professional, right?
Yeah.
And respect both ways, always. I've never disrespected, I'm not like that. So then when I get to this business over here, this new job, and all of a sudden, whoa, okay, this is different. First of all, I'm not necessarily in the same, this isn't Kansas anymore,
Yeah.
Maritza. And so it was a little disappointing. I really expected more out of what it is that I was in my teams. And so my teams weren't progressing. My team was not, and I say teams because sometimes you have, I had two for the election that changed it. And so my teams were not getting stuff done the right way. And so there was one thing that I couldn't do. And what it was that I couldn't do was to sit there and watch people that were on my team making decisions that were in violation of the Brown Act. Now, the Brown Act is something that when we're in public office and we serve on boards and things like that, they are rules that ensure that when you hold a public meeting, it is really public, and that the public is able to know what you're going to talk about, what day you're going to talk about it, what time and where. Because then the public will have the opportunity to know they can come and ask you questions on that, and they know what your topic is. It needs to be sufficiently clear. But during those very difficult years, I was coming to, there was a lot of firings and hirings. And so, when you are a city council member in your city, your responsibility is to hire and fire at certain top levels. The rest of the staff, that's a responsibility of your city manager. So when I was actually, I come into a meeting, and then you have the meeting agenda, and I'm already being requested to hire someone to have a vote. In other words, there was a public vote. But yet, before looking at that agenda, there had been no discussion. There was no interviews. Okay, what went on here? And obviously, if there is no open meeting, to the contrary, then is what you have as a result. There was a violation.
Yeah.
And a lot of people call that backroom deals, the compa system.
Yeah.
Right?
The famous compa system.
The famous compa system, but they're actually, technically, those are violations of the Brown Act. So when we went through some really difficult issues that were just like right in front of me, just crude, right there. And we hired this one police chief that the community was not very happy about. And so we began to study how that occurred, and we were able to actually get the DA to prove that there were 5 violations in that activity. But by then the DA is only slapping somebody on the hand and nothing really happened. They're saying, don't do it again, right? Because the DA's office is the office that can go forward criminally. And so that is where you go. And in order to do that, it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You actually have to almost prove to your DA where the violation was. And so pulling out 5 violations on this council back then was big. But it also proved that, yes, that process wasn't appropriate, and we just don't deserve that in this day and age anymore. And honestly, no DA needs to be telling us how to conduct business. We should know how. And we should also know that when you do that kind of activity for your community and you hire people in the compa system, then you're not receiving the best.
Yeah. Oh,
You're
yeah.
not.
Yeah.
And I know that we deserve the best.
Yeah, I see that. And, where I work, So I'm not gonna get in there, but yeah.
They're watching.
Yeah. Somebody's asking me, are you gonna run for re-election?
Should I?
I think you should. I think you should.
I have been thinking a lot about that. In the years that I've done this, it's taken a lot away. And I'm okay with that because I was able to. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people ask me, why do you do that? Because I can. Because I built a business that allows for me to have wonderful people behind me. My partner that you met today, she's been with me for 30 years. So actually 29. So who's counting, right?
Yeah.
So she and the rest of my staff backed me up so much. And they allowed me to take this adventure and take myself away from this business and from my children, really, and my family and my personal life. Because you have no life.
Yeah.
Especially the circumstances that happened to me, where all of a sudden you have Facebook pages dedicated to you and they're making movies out of you. And it's like, so I would like wake up in the morning or whatever, take a peek or whatever. Somebody would tell me, and it's like, really? I got to check with you guys every day because I'm not even sure what I'm doing today because apparently you guys know more about me. And I apparently have a really exciting life because I don't. I'm just a regular mom. You know, I drive a Ford, so I shop at the same Walmart you guys do.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a Calexican. Yeah. I was born here. So I don't know if I should. I'm still debating, really. I sometimes hate this job. And sometimes I'll say, I don't want to do this anymore. No. And the thing I think it is why I'm thinking a lot about it right now more seriously is my health. I'm a 15 years cancer survivor, and I want to stay that way, and so when issues are like that, like I told you, 5 violations, you're trying to hire the tip top law enforcement person of your city, and you've got this weird stuff happening, and the employees themselves participating in the hiring process, and all of a sudden, it's just all that kind of stuff. Your tummy will never let you, be, because you've always got it in knots because you're just so upset at the fact that you can't believe the blatant disregard for respect to your community. Yeah. And so I didn't know it was so ugly. And so I really thought that by the time that we had this new election that things were going to kind of be a little more calm. They haven't yet. And so that is where I figure, do I really want to expose myself continuously to this kind of attacks? For the mere fact of protecting, I guess, the livelihoods of all these individuals, because that's what I am here for, is making sure that 85-year-old lady that takes her Zumba classes and has a great time at the community center will never have to worry that if there is inappropriate activity in her police department or not, because she's going to know I'm taking care of that. And I'm going to make sure that the public servants that are here in Calexico are quality public servants, as they are now, and that they have the uniform well and correctly put on for the city of Calexico, and that their services are community-based. So at one point, the services of our police department were not community-based. They were actually quite the contrary, and it was a very scary time. I would say that there were very few people that lived the exact issues that were confronting us and that caused so much concern. But that kind of thing will wear you out.
Yeah.
I know that I also told a lot of people that if I ever get any more gray hairs or any more wrinkles, I'm out. So that part, I think I got a few right here. So that kind of made me think.
That's like at the top of the list now.
Yeah. It's like, no job should ever beat you up.
Yeah.
And so as it is, this job is very demanding. Our type of clientele in this community need a lot of help. They're very vulnerable. They're sometimes victimized. A lot of them don't know how to read and write.
Yeah.
And that's actually incredible for nowadays that we're so modern, right? But because we have devoted ourselves to be, number one, humble. You need to look at your client in the eye. You need to know to be able to shake that hand, no matter how much of that agricultural field dirt and soil they have on that hand. Because I've met so many people in this business that when you look at them, you may think that they're not what they are inside. And I've learned so much from all these individuals that are highly, highly experienced in life and very mature in their in their intent of you learning from them, because they're proud of their lives, and I'm proud of them too.
Yeah.
And so I feel this agricultural community has grown together with me, but I feel also they still need to grow more. I remember that this agricultural community in the beginning, when I started 30 years ago, they were making excellent incomes. Excellent. It was good to be a farm laborer. You were getting paid by piecework and boxes and stuff. We were having people come in having, $50,000 a year. And I'm talking 30 years ago.
Yeah, when I was...
Yeah. Remember? Yeah. Okay. So now it's a totally different thing. There's a lot of humiliation. There's a lot of abuse towards the women. As a matter of fact, I hope you can kind of see I have a painting of a campesina. And I wanted that because in the years I've heard a lot of the stories and having to hold a lot of hands and hug a lot of women who have suffered a lot in the fields just to get a job for the day. And so that's not cool. That's why I think probably I started to develop a little bit of a feminist side to me. And maybe that's what shows in all of these issues that I have with my all male council. Who knows?
Yeah.
I may be that a little too, and I want, like I told you earlier, I would like for more women to be out there and at the table. We deserve that place at the table, but we're not demanding it. And in a way, that's probably what I'm doing here in Calexico, is demanding a place at the table. I don't know how much you know of the history of Calexico.
Not much, to be honest.
But I really didn't know much myself when I was younger. But I moved into a home here in Calexico when I was first divorced, and it was at the CFD area there called Hurtado. That was my first experience when I started to really realize I had the ability to speak. Como me dijo una señora, a ti nunca te van a hacer falta las palabras, Maritza. And maybe that's true. But I do know I have the gift of gab. I express myself correctly. I know how to be able to bring across issues that need to be brought across, and I know how to deal with it. So my community, which is the people that lived there at that time, asked me to represent them, which I did. And actually, we weren't successful back then because the majority of the people started losing their homes. And so we no longer had the same group of people fighting City Hall. And then I decided to run for council. And when I ran for council, I was locked out of those conversations because I had a conflict. I lived there.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit weird, but that's how I started, pretty much in wanting to be a little more closer to what was going on in my government, because I ended up living in a home that had the worst situation ever. It was abandoned by the project developer, and we were paying a lot of money for it, and it ended up being completely the reverse than what was projected.
Yeah.
So that was really sad. I held on to that house for 5 years until my kids went to college, and I figured, what am I doing here? So estoy solita como la frijol en la olla, un frijolito en la olla, ¿no?
Yeah.
And I would talk and I would hear my own echo. So I decided to sell my home, and I had to sell another short sale too. And so being a tax lady, I know how to take care of that with my schedule. I'm sorry, with the 1099-C, right? But it was about noticing how the community always needs people to come out and speak. And I did that for them at that time. I wasn't able to speak for them anymore when I got into council because of the conflict. But then also, I didn't see anybody else speaking. So I like this. That's why I'm here, Jose. I like this. I want you guys to be active because I saw the difference it made for my community. I feel my community is that much safer right now. 2 years ago, FBI arrived at the PD, at the police department of the city of Calexico, and we lost approximately 7 officers out of that episode, which meant approximately 10% of our force. That's a lot. Yeah. That's a lot. It shouldn't be like that. And so I honestly feel that all that happened, and the manner in which this community came out to defend themselves, it was a pretty proud moment. The city needed their city back. And it was the ugliest thing, and we're still paying for it. And I think that that's probably what a lot of our staff, the community themselves, look at it in a general manner, is that we are recovering, but we all got slapped, all of us at the same time. I live here too, so we all got slapped. But we all also are believers, and your community is still there. You're still like going to Cuchis, and you still like your yum Chinese food because we all are still here. And unless, we change our name to another name, so everybody wants us to be named Mexicali now, but no, it's not like that. It's like, we are a community too. Yeah. And I know that time will heal And that is where the believer in me will always be. Time will heal.
I was talking, speaking of, being involved and running for city council. I was talking to Willie, and he's ran like 6 times and he's never won. Something that he told me. And you mentioned.
So why waste your time?
Yeah, and you mentioned you have like this following, this bank. The people that support you. So where I was going is that you need, you're lucky that in that sense that you want to do something for the community, and you're lucky that you have that people, that enough people that want you to help them out and run. So
that I have the support.
Mm-hmm. So my thing is that how do you get somebody else to run that doesn't have that support and wants to do something?
That's a great question. Get involved. Get yourself out there. You do have new members on council right now that had never done it before.
Yeah.
Right? So it's about doing homework.
But I mean, like Mr. Pacheco, he had an upper hand because he was a principal. A lot of people.
He had been council also.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. He had already served, I don't remember how many years ago, but he had been away from council at least 10 years because I've been there 7. So it's probably about 10. And he saw the situation and he decided to run again. And I really appreciate that because those are the type of members that still believe, that are your community members that still want to give back. That experience, you have no idea. Oh my gosh, that's so helpful. I kind of thought it was kind of funny the other day because on Wednesday, this one young man came to the microphone and because we had a budget meeting on Wednesday to go over the budget, the mid-year budget report. And of course, it's all, not good stuff. And we all know that, right? But it was so interesting because, we have a consultant and she's been with us for quite a while. She was explaining everything in super high level terminology. And so, it's a little tough to follow. So he comes to the microphone and he tells her, hey, I didn't understand anything you said. Can you say that in easy terms? And I look at him and I know who he is. And I said, weren't you assigned to the finance commission? And he goes, yeah. And I said, but that was like 2 years ago. You haven't learned yet? Why are you there? Do your homework. So then I said, look, this is not the place you're going to learn because we can't stop everything and just teach you. And then he was a little offensive. I had to school the kid. He's like, and you guys all look like you're lost too. And I said, oh, how dare you? I said, let me just remind you, this gentleman over here, he's educated. He has that degree. This gentleman over here, he has this, that. Myself, 30 years experience. And they do too. So come on, man. You may think we don't know, but trust me, this council knows what's up. Yeah. We don't say that many things. When somebody comes up to the podium and speaks, we're not supposed to talk to them. It's only comments. Yeah. So it was just hilarious. Yeah, First of all, he needed to learn the processes of a meeting. Okay. You don't go up there and expect you're going to have a debate. First of all.
That's a lot of people... misconception that people have.
Correct.
We're going to have a debate during the council meeting.
Wish I could. I wish. These are the opportunities. If anybody else wants to ask me any questions, these are the opportunities you get. Yeah. But not at the meetings. Because the meetings are business meetings that we invite the public to make comments on, but it is not a meeting for the public to get involved. It is a business meeting of the council. Mm-hmm. And they have every right to come in and say their 3 minutes, but there is no right to get involved into the actual going back and forth. So that's why sometimes it sounds a little rude, but that's just the way it is. So I had to stop him and I told him, please get educated. That's all. I hate to say it like that. Yeah. But you're coming here and you're coming with no knowledge. And it just doesn't look good on you. If you really want to come and bash us, be prepared yourself. Be better prepared yourself if you want to come and bash. And so it's okay. Everyone knows that you're going to do bashing. Yeah. But if you want to help each other and you want to learn and you want to progress, let's learn. So I suggested to him to take some time with the finance lady, and go and learn a little bit. So hopefully he took my advice. And I also would like to tell him, I'll teach you any day, Yeah. Because it has been really complex. But what is kind of hilarious is, okay, you've already been on a board all this time. You should know by now. And you should be able to follow the conversations because you actually went to those meetings and you absorbed what you were learning. But if you're going to those meetings only just to sit there and then you go and you're a Facebook activist, that's not helping anybody. Yeah.
I stopped for a while. I would get into debates with my friends and people on Facebook. And it's
good though. It's good to have a conversation. I love doing it all the time too. But that's not where you're going to learn.
Yeah. No, but sometimes it gets too overwhelming with, people that are just I mean, excuse my French, but talking out of their ass. You know, they don't really know. You know, I'm a facts
You
person.
know a few of those too?
Yeah, I'm a facts
I know a
person.
few.
I'm a facts person. You know, I like to know the facts. If I'm going to say something, it's because I already looked into it and, you know, I know
Sure.
I can give you like, oh, this is because of this and this and this. So that's why I'm like, you know, I don't do Facebook arguments anymore.
And that's why I agreed to come and talk to you, because I can see that you're trying to help people to get a little better information. You know, but there's going to be stupid stuff that's going to come out.
Oh,
Sure.
yeah, for
I can
sure.
even say stupid stuff.
Yeah.
I say it all the time. I try not to. But like you said, there's so many facts that people can actually get. Like what's happening right now with the firefighters. You know,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah,
so much.
That's another question that somebody else had. You know, what's gonna happen? What's, you know, people are, because since Hefner board already said no in terms of the funds. What's the next step? What do you?
The city of Calexico is searching for their own solutions. We did have some meetings about that. We did just Wednesday look at the situation of the present position, the present financial position. Unfortunately, they're still finding issues that have to do with our balance sheet, and that changes our financial position. And I did ask our consultant this last time, why is it still happening? If it's that we have been trying to repair all of this for the last 3 years after the famous Warren and Quinn and Bostic left us, then why are we still here? What is it that the staff, primarily of our finance department, is not getting right, that those types of surprises, as she called it, are still coming up here 3 years later? That's incredible to believe.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, because as a bookkeeper accountant myself, I'm not an accountant, I'm sorry, I'm into accounting. When you actually, let's say for example, you're doing your system manually and you're writing your checks manually, and then you want to modernize and you put everything into QuickBooks, you start to find errors, you start to straighten it out, you start to smooth it out. But once you transfer everything over to QuickBooks, then you take QuickBooks and you're doing it year by year. You shouldn't be finding weird stuff like that big 3 years later. And I just don't understand where that came from. But that threw us off. Because when you already had a plan, and then your bookkeeping comes in and says, guess what? We just found this other problem. And this other problem was because we did not register the fact that you had a future liability with the payments that we were making over there for the outlets. And those payments were pretty big. So, and we haven't made a payment on it in a couple of years. Okay, how did that happen?
Yeah.
And so, and it's on a larger scale. It's not just my little small clients that I have on QuickBooks. These are enormous software programs that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to purchase and to maintain, whatever.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah, it's not. You don't go buy it at Walmart and
no,
buy your computer.
no.
Yeah.
And the one we were using before, this one's called Springbook. The one we were using before was called Mom. I don't know. I just had that name, Mom. And so the other one was total dinosaur. I mean, even getting it repaired, you had to have somebody come in from God knows where, and it was just crazy. So in 2013, we started an adventure. And that was when we still had a city manager by the name of Oscar Rodriguez. And that was when he had hired Quinn. And Quinn told him, okay, you need to buy a new program. You need to modernize. And that is when we went ahead and Oscar told Quinn, you're crazy. How are you going to get that accomplished? Not with this staff. We can't do this or whatever. And so he says, got to do it. You can't be like this. That thing is too old. So in 2013, which is now going to be 5 years later, 5 years previous, that's when we started to decide we need to modernize. Because in a community, not community, but an organization, when you're making purchases, let's say, for example, our streets, okay, or anybody goes down to Home Depot, okay, and purchases, I don't know, 3 bags of cement for some project or whatever, that kind of thing, needs to be through purchase order system, right? So we need to modernize our purchase order system still to this day. It is not computerized. And so I have a problem with that. I do.
Yeah.
It allows for things to have too much wiggle room, let's call it. That we love wiggle room, don't we?
Yeah.
We don't want to do that. And so in my view, this should have been resolved a long time ago. It should have been resolved 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was a project that was supposed to fix everything, to find what we found, which is the $6 million missing.
Yeah.
They weren't missing. They were positioned incorrectly. So when you felt that your position, your financial position was such, and then you find these errors, then you have to come back, you do a carry back, and you have to readjust that position. So your position ends up different because you were beginning to straighten out and find those things that affected the previous and the future.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of thing, when you're not into that world,
Yeah.
it's just, that's the way it is.
Yeah. And having something like a computer program that, it's, even if you're not that knowledgeable, it's going to make it easier for everybody
It puts the puzzle together correctly,
Yeah.
so long as you find the right pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, everything in a city like ours is handled through a bank account, right? But where the problem is that, let's say, famous Measure H. Anybody want to talk about Measure H? Measure H is only a fund that's been there for 7 years. It started in 2010. The voters saw the fire department, the police department promote it. So they knew that if they did Measure H, it was going to supply funding to the police department and to the fire department. So the citizens allowed for us to tax ourselves to make sure that the level of the service of those first responders were going to be in accordance to what this community needs. Okay? So they allowed that to happen. Just like the tax that we get on Heffernan. The city allowed for that tax to exist because they knew they didn't have a hospital. And that Heffernan then would be replacing services since we don't have a hospital. And they were okay with that too. So the city has two taxes, hospital tax and sales tax, extras, okay? Compared to every other city, we have extras. So when the Measure H fund was initiated, you had what's called the Community Oversight Committee. And we all assign people, each council member. So you have 5 people from the community that has to make a decision how that money is going to be spent. However, because of the overturn in council and all the madness, you had overturn in the members. So each time you had an overturn in the members, each new member had no idea what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so we lost city managers, we lost members, we lost council members. No one had retained any of that history. Okay? So then, certain people are on that you've already interviewed, and they have a big problem with the fact that they feel that there's a need to have a forensic audit. They screaming during those really weird times, we need to do a forensic audit on Measure H. No, you don't. You need to close the books first, okay? Because audits do not occur until you close your books. An auditor doesn't come and do your books for you. Mm-hmm. You need to do them. And so the books were not closed. So how are you going to audit it, first of all? Okay. So nobody got that part of that conversation, right?
Yeah.
So I know you are right now. Second, it's not that old of a fund. And we have, in that account, probably written 5 checks in 1 year. It doesn't have that much activity. It's probably not more than 10, because when they write checks from that account, they're huge. So it's only, bien poquititos.
Yeah.
So anyway, so early on in that fund, the committee followed through with the commitment, and they decided to fund every year, because that Measure H receives $2 million every year, approximately.
Mm-hmm.
At the beginning, it might have been a little bit less, but right now it's pretty smooth at $2 million. Maybe drops a little bit and goes up, but $2 million, okay, every year. And this is just Measure H, okay? So of those 2 million, they decided, all right, of these 2 million, we're going to devote 1,300,000 approximately towards police and fire. Okay? They devoted what they had to, which means you only had 700 left. Let's say. This is my example, okay? Because I kind of want to remember it was. Anyway. So the chunk of the future expected revenue was already devoted to them. Okay? So then when you have the next group come in, they didn't know that. Then we didn't have any minutes. For some reason, they were never prepared. So then there was no written history. Okay, there was no financial history. There was nothing. Of course, I was there, but no one wanted to listen to what I had to say, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, you guys want to keep criticizing? You guys want to keep saying that there's a need for the grand jury? Go ahead. One day you will find out that what you feel is this mountain of corruption is really a molehill of accounting slowdown. Okay, that's pretty much what you can call it. It's an accounting slowdown. You didn't have the appropriate people in that department tending, and in the whole big picture, we're transferring over to another program. So now, I remember that when Mr. Villa was there last year, he said, Maritza, they're going to contact you from the grand jury. And I said, great, finally, somebody's going to figure this out, and all that, BS talking is now going to subside because now you'll have some facts. So I was waiting for somebody to come and call me, and I never got the call. So then I called someone that was with the grand jury, and I said, okay, well, what happened, people? No one ever, all I got was all these, telling me it's going to happen. You're going to be called. And I'm like, great, bring it.
Yeah.
But I guess they never needed to get to me was because they didn't need to go farther than our finance department, and found that reality, there was no corruption. It was just people didn't realize that when you wanted to spend anything out of Measure H, guess what? You can't, because you wrote a bunch of checks that were already predated for, the future, and you already committed it. But no one was here to tell you. And so you kept spending.
Oh, okay. So they all this time they thought they had all this money, and in reality it was like
they kept spending. So I've been there for 7 years, and we've had 7 city managers. Actually, now it's 8 for me. So for me, the way that the experience has been is I cannot rely on a city manager, first of all, because the majority are hired in inappropriate manner. And so the trust factor becomes really difficult. But it also is that your access to information is really important, I think. And once the information is accessible to anyone, the facts are there. So I was very confident always in that. But it is very frustrating when you have a world of people who think they know everything, and they're trying to tell you how your job went.
Yeah.
So Measure H is now probably very important for our staff to express to the community what really resulted. Because I think that that's what's damaging to all of us, is that there's so much mystery. And because of lack of information and so much mystery, because there's a little too many stories out there with still the loose ends out there. And who's going to tell you the truth? If we've had 8 city managers in all this time, well, who's telling the truth?
Yeah.
And who can you trust, unfortunately? And I'm still the person that has hope, okay?
Yeah, and it's so crazy that, we've had so many city managers, and I mean, yeah.
No calienta un huevo. But how do you do with it? In my case, I'm the mayor, and they're just coming and going, right? So I make do, because when you get a staff member that you're supposed to be their boss, but you didn't participate in that hiring process, but everyone else did, how do you deal with that? Oh my gosh, that was hard. And, Mr. Villa knows. Mr. Villa and I graduated together. We're class of 83, both of us. So I told him, what happened? And it took me a little while, and him a little while too, to break down that issue. And we ended up deciding that we were both had to respect each other, because both of us, we knew we were both community minded, and that he was much better than the other city manager that I had immediately previous to him. And that he was going to try. Even though he had come in that way, he was going to try. And yeah, that happened. But how long did he try? It was 1 year. And so unfortunately he had other intentions. And so now he's gone again. So here we are again? Not really. I don't feel that the instability exists at this given point. The instability was really horrible. It feels horrible to feel so unstable, and for you to be the leader, one of the leaders of your community, because you just don't know who your city manager is going to be next. And you're not the one calling the shots, even though your position is equal to the guy that sits next to you. I was elected exactly the same as everyone else. And so it does upset you, because that is not appropriate. And if you want to be proud of your government, then you want to, stick your nose in there and say, stop. Don't do that anymore. I'm not okay with it. Yeah. And so that's what I did. I rubbed everybody the wrong way, I guess. Everybody want to have a party and is like, why am I not invited? I like to party. No. But the thing is that serious stuff, that stuff about your government, that stuff about the representation, because I do care about representing Calexico. When I go out to like the different meetings in Brawley and Hopeville, El Centro, the other cities, you'll be surprised. They actually are very warm and welcoming to us, to me, and really want us to succeed.
Yeah.
That is actually something it's important for all of you to know. They do realize that this city has so much potential, and we're not getting it.
Yeah.
And
I think it sucks that, I think all of us say that we have so much potential and, we are where we are. And I guess it even sucks anymore that other cities see that too. And,
Sure.
we're not meeting that expectation.
I get really defensive, real defensive. And sometimes I shouldn't do that. But I love my city. This is where I was born. And this is where I have struggled. This is where I was ill. This is where my children have been raised. And they would always tell, Mom, why do we live here? There's nothing to do. Because it's safe here. You can actually raise a family, know that they can go to the store and they're going to come back in one piece. And to me, that feeling of knowing it's a small community and I was going to be safe during the time that I raised my kids, because I was single. I didn't have a husband to raise my kids. So living single in this kind of a community, yes, I felt much safer because I had every opportunity to live in San Diego, which I did for a little bit, but it wasn't the same. Yeah. You come back because to me this worked.
Yeah.
And plus, oh my God, this whole community just embraces me so much. I see them in the street and they kiss me and they hug me and then they feed me. They come here all the time and bring me food. Stop bringing me food. No, they bring me more. And so that kind of love takes you back to some place like this, and you still want to fight for it.
Yeah.
Because I know that, again, back to that one lady or the child that goes to Calexico High School and just has dreams of doing something else. Man, I would really like for them to come back here. I just actually hired a kid that, I shouldn't say kid, a young man who's a UCLA graduate. He has been here in Calexico for 6 months without work. So he called me up and I said, oh my gosh, you're perfect. I said, why'd you come back? Because I have a daughter that's ready to graduate too. And I got so scared. I said, oh my God, don't come back. Because he had not been able to find a job with an economics degree. So I said, wow.
Yeah, I think it's really important that we show our kids that, you can go out there and get educated and come back and, have a productive.
Give back. You have a few people that have come back. You have doctors. Ceja, he became a doctor and came back and is giving back. You have a few people like that. Yeah. And that's nice. I heard that Calexico brewery just opened yesterday, apparently.
Oh really?
I love that. We have some plans for them. Okay. And actually, I wanted to kind of go back to the positivity and what Calexico's potential is about. I'm really fortunate to have had the first time I was able to personally meet the Mexicali mayor. Great relationship. I understand now why, is that he is great friends with one of my uncles from Mexicali. And this uncle of mine is in Hurtado. Hi, Hurtado family. That are bien movidos. They're all into businesses. And so as they were growing up in Pueblo Nuevo, they grew up with Mr. Sanchez as their friend. So right now we are taking full advantage of that. The city of Calexico right now is maintaining an awesome relationship with him. I have him on my WhatsApp. So we have done economic development efforts with him. And we are going to continue those. Calexico has a lot of cariño for Mexicali because of the people and because the cultural, the economical, the different things that we share. We share the same air. Yeah. And they care. They care a lot. As a matter of fact, they care a lot that we're bringing cannabis. You know? He wrote an article and he's really worried. He doesn't understand really right now what that could really mean in the future to his city. And so we're going to continue discussions with him and making sure that we are always going to be together in all of these different things that happen on the border. For example, after Christmas, the lines going into Mexicali were still the same, right? Okay, I see it. Okay, it stresses me out. It stresses me out more because I'm supposed to do something about it, and also try to drive through that. And so immediately you contact Sanchez's office and say, we need to talk. And having that easy way to just pick up the phone and know, amigo, necesito hablar con usted.
Yeah.
You know you're going to get some answers.
Yeah.
And what we discovered,
That was something that my friends last night told me to ask you about. The lines like.
what we discovered is that the federal government, not the local government, but the federal government installed a new apparatus here at the border, which causes a pause. And so that one pause, it could be 2 seconds, causes.
It adds up.
Yes. So we have something set up for this week for another issue, which is the cannabis. But the week following, we are going to be having the meeting with the feds, and they're going to come. And we're going to tell them, you can't do that to us. So we need to find something that is a happy medium between your enforcement and our lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't like that kind of line all the time. Okay, you need to know that.
Yeah.
And so the good relationships with our Mexican counterparts is super important. We're there. Now all we need to do now is each time that we see issues like that, push the issue and make sure that we are there with them at the table and resolving it.
How do you feel about the cannabis?
The cannabis is an industry. Prop 64 is an industry that you can't stop. I mean, it is. It is what it is. I am not against it. I'm a very modern person. I have 2 children. So I am not against it. But what it is the manner in which the city is handling the project. I wish it would have handled very differently. In El Centro, Brawley, and Imperial, they had public meetings. And there were probably about a good 6 or 8 where the public would come in, and it was about the pros and the cons all day long. But your council is programmed to do that for the public because the public then comes and tells you what they feel. Because those kinds of projects are obviously controversial no matter what.
Yeah.
Even though they were approved by the state of California, your city has the decision not to bring it in or to bring it in. In our case, it's cultivation only. It has nothing to do with sales on a public basis. However, the cultivation is still an issue itself. It has agreements within the project itself where things kind of worry me. For example, it talks about how they are going to need, security guards, armed security guards, and something like that. An industry like that, of course, bringing in armed security guards makes me pretty nervous. Where you're going to be at, you are kind of close to some schools, and stuff like that, and the proximity to the border, and the fact that we keep finding tunnels ourselves, within the city, and that kind of atmosphere is what we live. And so when you want to go into that type of a industry, you better darn make sure the coast is clear for you. And knowing that we had just had that FBI raid only 2 years ago, we're still freshly wounded, and we do have a department that I respect highly. I am fine with all of my staff members in our department. Saludos a todos. They're very helpful in ensuring right now that their work efforts are recognized as community-based after all of that. Very important to say.
Yeah.
But there was no checking in with the chief. There was no checking in with the churches. There was no checking in with the schools. There was no checking in with the public. We did not do that.
Yeah.
So but that was the other council. That was the council before, which we could still, at least once in a while, maybe do a little public, sponsored by the city, because the company that's the project does a lot of stuff themselves free. I mean, they do their own advertising, but this is not about advertising. This is about public notice. And like I told a lot of people, the cannabis industry is not ice cream. We're not selling ice cream. It is cannabis, and not everybody likes it. Everybody likes ice cream unless you're lactose intolerant, right?
Yeah.
But
Sorbet.
yeah. So so the fact that is how we started it all, I didn't like that, but we're already halfway down the pike here, so there's really nothing that I can really do other than educate your community and know that you have that in your backyard, and learn a lot, because as far as I understand, there is still quite a bit of issues with the federal and state laws conflicting for us. And that is why it is important to bring in your Mexicali counterparts to understand it. Because if you really look at the different things that could happen is you might, and now I'm talking not just about the cannabis, the agricultural growing part of it. I'm talking now about the use and the purchase and all that on a personal level. You can have people coming and purchasing on this side and taking it to that side, to the south side.
Yeah.
So there's an international concern and an international conversation that needs to be held. And they're going to have it. You're gonna have it next week.
Oh, okay.
So that's good because he actually asked us for that help, and so that's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a unique situation where it's not like Colorado that they're in the middle of the country and
we're on
they
the
don't
border.
have
It's already problematic.
Mm-hmm.
This community has already been, like we said, bruised 2 years ago with a huge issue internally that we had, where it comes down to law enforcement not being on shaky ground. So are we safe with that coming in? I guess is my question, and I wish that we could have asked that question. Are we really safe? Are we really ready for this? But council members felt we were. I didn't feel we were. I wish we would have waited just a couple more years, and allow for either this department to strengthen, which I see them very, very strong right now. They have worked really hard to come back. We had the Department of Justice monitoring them for quite a while. It was so bad. But they had to reconstruct their department from the bottom up. When all that went down, we did not have a evidence room. Our evidence room was not cool. And so people had issues. They didn't know where their evidence, and that you just can't do that. You can't operate like that. But then again, we were not community based policing. It was not. It was all really bad. And so right now that's all turned around. Now you have even some new officers that we're really proud of. I don't know if you saw that picture of that one young man pushing the lady in the wheelchair. That was so awesome. And there's just different attitude. And I love that. And I respect that about all the guys. They have been through just really bad stuff. And we lost a lot of them that they did move on. They just felt that it was too shaky here, and they moved on. So, it's really important for the community to know that there has been a complete reform in that department. They're not at its best because money is missing too. Once all of that, the violations of the overtime fiasco through the federal money that we had, we lost that funding. We couldn't get that stuff anymore. So what happened? And when you say that stuff, it's grants. When you live on a border like this and you have that kind of impact from the federal government, the community should not have to pay for what we got. We have to do that. We are first responders. So our police and our fire and our ambulance has to come to this border. I keep pointing that way because it's right there.
Yeah.
But we get no money for it. So the citizens pay for what we do at the border. And you think that's fair?
No.
So,
but in the past we did. It was just because of the...
We have them back again.
Okay.
But because of the inappropriate activity and the abuse that occurred to that granting opportunity, it was called Stone Garden. We had to pay back the $1 million. And so that messed us up.
Oh.
And we just couldn't get back up after that. But one thing for sure is that we all, I believe, understand that cleaning up Calexico was necessary. And it had a huge price. And we're still paying for it now. However, the hope is still there that we're much safer. We're much more united because in order to get rid of that problem, the whole community came out and just was up in arms, and they were very, very happy when, everything happened and we got some contracts that said, yes, Mr. Warren, we're going to keep you. We had huge meetings, but there's forces that are a little strong here in Calexico, and we didn't get to be happy for a very long time because then all of a sudden, whoa, where did he go? All of a sudden, Bostic's fired. And it's like, really? Oh, okay. I saw that coming. But job was already done.
Yeah.
So, all right. And I had a feeling why they hadn't fired him because it's like my vote in the last, I'd say, since Mr. Kim got here, 6 years, has been a very not powerful vote. You have your majority, which is your 3 votes that push things forward, and your minority. Okay. I was always in the minority. But because there was really a lot of dumb decisions, I guess, that allowed for these 2 individuals that arrived to the city to just keep going. And then the community loved them so much that I have a feeling that maybe the council was just really scared to get rid of them. And they ended up getting rid of them when they just couldn't, help it anymore. But by then, we had already taken care of the business. And so you asked me, am I okay? Am I okay with what has happened? Am I satisfied? No, I'm not. No, I'm not. It is just absolutely the most frustrating thing that I've ever experienced in my life. But I felt that leaving the job and taking my finger, where it was at, the metiche and everything, I felt that it could have been worse. Because me being there and hassling everyone and demanding transparency, as annoying as it could have been, I knew that probably made them think a lot, think twice.
Yeah.
I was at a point where I kind of felt a little fear for my safety. during closed session. And I got to the point where I just basically said, all right, you guys want to treat me like that? Well, I think that what we need to do is record you. And that's what I did. I recorded them from, I would say, 2 years worth, till I kind of felt that it subsided and I wasn't in fear anymore. Yeah, because a lot of stuff happens in closed session. A lot of things are said and a lot of different violations.
Yeah.
And
do you guys say shithole during closed session?
What?
Do you guys say shithole during the closed sessions? Like,
oh no, I got called worse. I almost filed a restraining order on somebody because I got called something really bad the other day. Yeah, and unfortunately, not that I'm used to that, because nobody's used to being calling those kinds of names, especially in the Me Too environment right now. And then I tend to be a little bit of a feminist, so
yeah.
But that witch with a capital B word, yeah, you shouldn't call people that. That's not the day and age where we're at anymore. Especially for someone who's expected to be a leader, of your community. And what's on the table are such serious things like closing down a fire station. And when you're going through these kinds of things, everyone has the right for an opinion, because we all want good things for Calexico. And I think that it's just like the Democrats and the Republicans, they all think that they just are doing the right thing, but they come from different beliefs. Mm-hmm. Okay. And definitely I come from different beliefs. But I believe that also we all have the right to express our opinion. Mm-hmm. I think we all need to do that. Yeah. And so if you were elected, which I was elected, then that's my job. So when people feel I talk too much, then when I don't talk, and what do you think? I'm being silenced? My job is to talk. Yeah. And to talk to you guys and tell you guys as much as I can. And I've always been like that. I have a page, actually. It's called Calexico Cares, Solutions and Discussion for Solutions, because I love talking to you all and making sure that you guys know that if I'm this person, I hope that today, a lot of your people will see.
We actually lost the battery died on that. Okay. So, and I think I don't know if it died, but I mean we can keep going, but I'm just saying the video's gone. So, but yeah, you were saying about the Calexico Cares. Mm-hmm.
That we all learn that there's more to learn, and so I try to have those conversations there all the time. Yeah. And I open that to everybody if they wanted to, Mm-hmm. But
hopefully people get more into like podcasting, because it's
opportunity to talk more. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because we live in this small community, and I noticed that not a lot of people use the technology we have, and when they do use it, it's just like to spread rumors or spread like fake news stuff. So I just hope that people get into this, because it's easy to do, and it's easy to inform people when you have the right set of mind, the right reason to do it. Like, I don't know. I just feel like hopefully that.
I think what it is that our society right now, I would hate to be a millennial right now, okay? Because right now life, I don't want to say it's so ugly, but life is a real bitch right now for those young people out there. And either you're going to get a grip of your world, or your world is going to get a grip of you. Mm-hmm. And so if you are going to lock yourself away and you just want to play video games all day long, then you're not going to be much of a provider or producer in this world. Yeah. And a lot of people will slide through their whole life like that. Fine. But my God, life is out there to live. Mm-hmm. And the experiences, I think that when you get involved in your community, become an activist, they're just awesome stories to tell your grandkids. Yeah. I'm waiting for my grandkids still, but I don't have any yet. But Calexico and different cities like ours, right? Small communities, they need a government to ensure that you have services and that you have clean streets and that everything works for you in where you need to have your family and stuff and your business. But not all communities are successful at doing that. And, it really does boil down to who's your staff, like any organization, because if you don't have good leadership, you ain't going to get nothing done. Yeah. If you have corrupt leadership, menos. Yeah. So, and even if you go down and you look at your secretaries, it's like, or mechanics, or, things like that are the the staff that comes and supports the leadership, if they don't have it going on there either, yes, you no longer are a well-oiled machine, and you will break down. Your fractures will show.
Yeah.
And so, ¿quién le va a dar? Who's going to give our city that leadership if they keep leaving?
Yeah.
And the fact that they kept leaving in that manner had a lot to do with, inner workings of a stupid government that's just not getting it right.
Yeah.
But, right now, my honest opinion is the Calexico's getting it right as far as leadership. We just don't have cash right now in our general fund. Our other funds are extremely healthy. And that is what's really interesting about us, that we have other funds that are our park funds, our street funds, our water funds. All those other funds, they are healthy. We do not need to do any crazy decisions over there because those are healthy. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, right now we are, there's a beautiful plan. I can't show you because it's in my computer and I have everything moved, but Adrian Cordova Park is getting the second section of it. Oh my God, it's beautiful. That one there, already saw the plans. That one has approximately 3 baseball fields and 1 beautiful soccer field, parking lot, bathrooms, the whole thing.
Adrian Cordova is the one that it's over by Zapata?
Yes.
Okay.
No, it's on Clinton.
Clinton. Yeah, but it's like.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty big.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we only were able to develop one side of it. But right now, actually, we've had $1 million in a fund that's been sitting there for like 3 years. The 3 years that we've been dealing with this problem, it's been sitting there. So you've had $1 million in a fund for 3 years.
For that park.
Yes.
Okay.
But that money hadn't been used because leadership wasn't calm enough to be able to spit out some projects.
Okay.
So
I think, somebody had asked me about that. I think my friend Santiago had asked me about, I'm not sure if he's talking
Santiago
about.
Sada?
Yeah. I'm not sure if he's talking about that complex or.
Probably.
So, yeah.
Well, that's the only one we have actually that's big like that, that's already in the pipeline.
Okay, so hopefully that'll answer his question. So
Yeah, I do his taxes. Do I do his taxes? He's my friend, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll tell him. He's always asking for donations. And, that's another thing, too, that I love this community so much. Tomorrow I'm going to have another young lady come over here, and I think that's also something I want to make sure that everybody's knows. I give back to this community a lot. I just don't talk about it.
Yeah, and my dad was like that. My dad, he's still with us. I'm not saying, like, he was because he's not involved now, but when we lived in the Pichoneras, he when we got there, it was really bad, like a lot of drugs, and so like a lot of times I was afraid of him because he would go out in the middle of the night and shush all these drug dealers or people getting high, and then after a while we had the basketball courts, so and we would use them, but he ended up getting all these kids together, making basketball teams, and he would donate his money, time, take them to tournaments, and we were actually pretty good. A lot of people didn't like us because we were the ghetto kids that would beat them up. But a lot of these kids that my dad helped, every time I see them, they're already grown up and they were bigger than me, older than me. They're always asking for my dad, and
mentoring.
Yeah, it always.
I need to beat your dad.
Yeah, I like that he was like that, but nobody really recognized what he did. I mean, the housing authority did, they knew him. They would give him awards because of the time and money he would put into the kids. But I mean, if you ask other people in the community, there might be people here and there that know him because of the basketball thing. Because back in the days we had the CYBL, was a league here in Calexico.
CYBL, I think I remember that one.
Calexico Youth Basketball League. So,
is that where that real tall gentleman is with? Okay. Anyway. What I was going to tell you is what you just said, something about shushing people away. Mm-hmm. I'm like that too, because a lot of people ask me, "Oh, well, isn't she in downtown? Doesn't she know what she sees? Why is it so dirty?" And this and that, right? Of course, I see it, but my hands are not the ones that are going to go fix that.
Yeah.
As business owners, we have a responsibility too. And I'm sorry to interrupt you, okay? But you just reminded me something really important, which is the raiteros. We have a big problem in transportation issues here in downtown, because if we go back to recognizing who we are a door. We have a port of entry. So transportation comes through here consistently. They pump out, and then they're pumping back in. And so the competition to make money there is fierce. these money-making machines are pretty hefty. I've heard one company can bring in about 50,000 in riderships a month. That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And $1 a piece, let's say. That's a lot. And that's just taking them down to Walmart.
Yeah.
And to the swap meet. So the competition is fierce. So when I go down there, because I go to the Jack in the Box and I'll walk around. I do a lot of shopping in downtown Calexico. And my kids are afraid of me because they're like, Mom, don't say anything. And I'm like, why? So they're sitting there and they're asking me if I want to ride to LA. So then I go up into their face. I'm sorry, but I will. And I'll say, discúlpeme, ¿usted tiene licencia? And they're like, es que yo soy regidora, señor. Y si no tiene licencia, por favor, retírese. So yes, I am doing it personally. Yeah. I am offending people probably. Yeah. And maybe I shouldn't be my own police, right?
Yeah.
But
it's dangerous, yeah.
Yeah, but again, it's really hard to accomplish goals in cleaning up your downtown without the proper staff. At this point, I think we're there. We do have conversations about it right now. We're already talking to our bus drivers, our taxi drivers, and we're learning if it is going to be a possibility to shut down First Street to any traffic or, well, of course, walking, we've got to go through there, to be able to eliminate the fact that, well, the moment you walk into Calexico, you're seeing all the very difficult stuff to see, all the ugly, all the underbelly stuff. Mm-hmm. And so we want to kind of get their blessing on that, the legitimate operations, and hopefully we can get the legitimate operations on board to do some type of defense, I guess, in closing down streets, so that the illegitimates don't have the easy so it's more fair to the legitimates. Mm-hmm. And so we were having another discussion, which is our Ubers that bring a whole other thing into play here. Because you also need to understand that when these buses and all these transportation companies come to Calexico and they use and they beat up all of our streets, they have to be permitted to do that through the city of Calexico. You need to have a route. Mm-hmm. But what happens is that in the past, in our history, the only systems that existed back then was your Greyhound bus station and Castro's buses that would pick up people, same place where they're at right now, mm-hmm. the Castro family, and take you down to the swap meet or to Walmart. Those were the only ones we had, and a few taxis. So our rules and regulations and everything about how we regulate traffic in Calexico mm-hmm. needs to be modernized. Yeah. However, we haven't been able to do that in all these years because that wasn't a priority. Yeah. But we will be working on it now because we do have a plan. We have a plan to clean up our downtown. We have plans. We are going to be turning 110 in April. And we're going to do a lot of those events here in downtown. So there is a focus. And when people tell me you aren't focusing, well, I think about it 24/7. Yeah. I think about it 24/7. I really do. Mm. I don't stop thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, and all of this is not like you're going to snap your fingers and things are going to happen.
I can't do it alone. Yeah. My hands are not the ones that are going to do the work. Mm-hmm. I need my leadership in my departments. And, hey, that teamwork needs to come and respond. I can request it together with my leaders, my other council members, and establish it as a priority, which was what we did. Mm-hmm. But the actual physical work, that's going to be somebody else. Even though I participated in all those cleanups, that's a lot of fun. But hey, I'm only doing it once every so often. Yeah, it's not my job. Yeah, I would love to do it if it was, but yo hago lo que puedo a darle el cariño que yo puedo. But just know that we're in a different day now than we were in 2015. Yeah. We got a lot of good stuff coming to be able to work with and make Calexico a better place and reach that potential because it is capable. And I see it. And when you see my eyes and I'm telling you, it's because I'm experienced. And I have been there for 7 years now. Yeah. And 7 of the ugliest. Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you because I knew you had, the experience. You're a veteran in terms of a little bit in terms of the city council. And with that said, we've been here an hour and a half recording. Really?
Yep.
And we're not being recorded anymore?
No, I don't think so. But yeah, with that said, is there anything else you wanted to add before we?
You ever want to invite me again?
Okay.
Okay. Awesome. Because I know that today we did it a little bit weird. Right?
Yeah.
Just a little bit weird. Yeah. But that's okay. You already know my style. Mm-hmm. Okay, my style. I can do other stuff too, which is be really funny. But I figure that this time I'll help you out just to kind of give it a little more educational flavor. Yeah. Because then later, it's because right now I want to be funny and I can't. I'm very sad. I'm very sad for what's happening.
Thank you for your time. I know that I messed up a little bit, but we were back on track. We did it an hour and a half, which is quite a long time. We had a lot of good information.
I think probably you'll have some more questions, and I'm here to help.
Yeah, for sure. I know a lot of people are gonna,
I go do radio shows all the time. I've done it all my life.
Mm-hmm.
Even when it was immigration only,
Mm.
and it was just taxes, people would come and ask me stuff all the time
Okay.
because I'm easy to talk to.
Yeah.
And that's the way my family is, just real kickback. But I ended up in politics. Jesus Christ. Here's this woman, she's this little busybody. Can't even, I freaking fidget. I fidget so much. And so that's just me. That's always been, I can't stand still.
Yeah.
So, but that energy, I use it for the good stuff that I can.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, I ended up in a really bad situation when it was really bad. And I ended up with a lot of guys that are really pissed off at me because they think that I'm the one that fired their friends. And it's like, no, I'm not that powerful, people.
Yeah.
You needed 3 votes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why they always attack me. And it's like, you need to understand, when you interview, that I'm not that powerful.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I wanted to tell you about the weak marriage and all that. But that's the way politics is, and it's just like when Trump and Hillary's thing, I always felt bad for her, I swear. But it was about, my God, really? Is everything her fault?
Till this day, everything's her fault. Like either her or Obama. Like,
yeah, there'd be fog in the morning in Calexico. It's like, it's Maritza's fault! She brought the fog! No. But so, yeah, me and my friends, we just laugh about it, Afterwards, it's like, my God, this is insane.
Yeah.
And sometimes I will fight back. I know that I was born a fighter, too. And I found out because I had a conversation with this old gentleman, like 90 years old, that knew my dad and my dad's family, right? Because my dad grew up here in Pueblo Nuevo.
Mm-hmm.
And so he goes, yo me acuerdo de tu papá. And I said, sí, tu papá era bien peleonero. I'm like, shit, that's where I get it from. Because my mom was awesome. My mom was the kind of person that used to say, this is the way it's going to be, and this is what it's going to be. In other words, you don't fight with her.
Yeah.
But my dad liked to brawl.
Well, that's good. You got that part of your dad.
Yeah.
So,
Thanks,
thank you, and
Thank you so much. This is awesome. I'm glad I did it.
Yeah, I'm glad you did it too. Thank
Thanks.
you. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.